new issues that were not included in the amendment, and it cannot be substantially different from the amendment. Order. Questions to the member for Joliette will be put after statements and question period when we move back to government orders.
Statements by members. The
Honourable Member for Manicouagan. Mr. Speaker, EI is a sexist program designed by men, a program that is not adapted to the lived lives of women today. Women enjoy less eligibility to EI and get fewer benefits. And sometimes they don't have a right to 1 red cent if they lose their job during maternity leave. Why? Because you have to have accumulated insurable hours over a period of 52 of the 52 last weeks. If a woman is on mat leave, she doesn't pay. Mr. Speaker, because women should not have to suffer from the hidden defects of a program which doesn't deal with their reality, this should end once and for all.
For London West.
Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to creating a more inclusive, accessible, and barrier-free Canada. That is why enhancing Canada Post's accessible delivery program is a key part of our government's renewed vision for the Postal Service. I am pleased to rise to inform the House that this week marks the first meetings of the Canada Post Accessibility Advisory Panel. This national advisory panel of experts and advocates for persons with disabilities and seniors will advise Canada Post on an enhanced accessibility delivery program to make it easier for Canadians to access their mail and parcels. Mr. Speaker, the Accessibility Advisory Panel will serve as a valuable forum for input and dialogue on the issue of accessibility. Thank you to these distinguished Canadians for agreeing to serve on the panel and for helping Canada Post continue to improve delivery for all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, top scientists from Canadian academia have come to our nation's capital to participate in the first ever Science Meets Parliament. This initiative connects science and parliamentarians. Organized in partnership with the Office of the Chief Science Advisor, Science Meets Parliament aims to connect policymakers and the scientific community. During this two-day event, 29 scientists, all of them Canada Research Chairs, will shadow 43 parliamentarians from both sides of the aisle. Scientists will get to learn how policy is made here in Ottawa while transferring their passion for science to parliamentarians. Let's build on Canada's long accomplishment in science, from Banting and Jacques to MacDonald and Strickland, to strengthen Canada's scientific community for the betterment of our collective humanity.
Honourable Member for Cumberland Colchester.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 100 years ago, the largest prisoner of war camp in Canada was located in Amherst, Nova Scotia. The Amherst internment camp held over 850 POWs, mostly German sailors from ships captured or sunk. 100 years ago from today, that camp was full. The Cumberland County Museum has a room dedicated to these POWs, their letters and photographs, especially their precision handmade models of ships, wagons, animals, and artillery. 11 German POWs died while captive at the Amherst internment camp, and in the Amherst Cemetery, a single gravestone with 11 names on it stands as a reminder. Although most of the captives were German sailors, there was one exception. In 1917, Mr. Leon Trotsky was an inmate at the Amherst camp, and some say he helped plan the Russian Revolution while in Amherst. Although this happened 100 years ago, the story of these German POWs in Amherst is still alive in the incredible handicrafts that were made by these prisoners and are still very much appreciated by local residents.
The Honourable Member for Timmins James Bay.
Heaven is in for a real treat, or it's about to get really shaken up, because Lou Batacchio, the ambassador Schumacher, is finally going home. Lou's story is the story of the Porcupine. His immigrant Italian parents came to the multi-ethnic mining town of Schumacher, and Lou spent his childhood as a rink rat at the McIntyre Arena, that mini Maple Leaf Gardens that produced so many hockey greats. And over the years, Lou was a coach, a referee, a hockey scout, a community organizer, a teacher, a politician, and an inductee into the Porcupine Sports Hall of Fame. But it was Lou's love of community and social justice that made him special. He used to hold court every day at the McIntyre Coffee Shop, where he'd argue politics on anything from municipality issues to taking on Donald Trump. I love talking with Lou and his wonderful wife Cecile because he was a man of integrity. He lived 9 decades on this earth, committed to the belief that we are here to build a better world. Go to the Angels, Lou. They're about to get an earful.
The honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Well, thank you, kind speaker. Yesterday, newly elected municipal councils were sworn in across British Columbia. And ironically, today, the United States are holding their midterm elections. Elections are on our minds. They allow us to get reference points. They allow us to express our values as facts, policies, and practices. And the facts are debated. That highly respected philosopher Homer Simpson once said, "Facts are meaningless. You can use facts to prove anything." That is even remotely true. 14% of all people know that. What is true is that we extend our congratulations to the newly elected mayor of White Rock, Darrell Walker, and Doug McCallum, the newly elected mayor of Surrey. As a former mayor, I'm conversant with the challenges and opportunities, and it is a fact that it's truly an honor to be in an elected position. And of course, all of us in this House know that these are the facts. Thank you.
The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, November is Diabetes Awareness Month, with World Diabetes Day on the 14th. 11 million Canadians are living with diabetes or pre-diabetes. Many take between 3 and 12 prescription medications and find the cost of equipment and supplies in excess of $15,000 each year. That's why it was such a failure of the Liberal government to reject 80% of people living with type 2 diabetes from collecting the disability tax credit to help pay for these costs. After our questioning, 58% were subsequently reapproved, but 42% were denied again without notice. It's important to support people living with diabetes by making life with this disease more affordable, and that's what the Conservatives will do. This week, increase your awareness by visiting the mobile screening unit, which is parked on the Hill today, or drop by the research fair to meet with Canadian researchers working on improvements here 5:30 to 7:30 tomorrow, Centre Block. Together, we can raise awareness and help eradicate this disease. Thank you.
The honourable member for Malpeque.
Mr. Speaker, members of the fresh fruit and vegetable industry are with us today to celebrate Fall Harvest Days on the Hill. The economic impact alone of the fresh fruit and vegetable supply chain is $14 billion in GDP. This industry is a huge employer for local economies, employing Canadians in both rural and urban Canada. And these farmers sustain our people and others around the world. Their work can be grueling, often fighting against the uncertainty of the elements to get the crop from the field to the fork. But we know for many it is a labor of love, and we here should appreciate all that goes into their efforts. Thank you to the industry for what you do, providing fresh fruit and vegetables for the nutrition of all and keeping us all in good health.
Honourable member for Oakville.
Gender-based violence is a serious issue in Canada. We need all Canadians to work together to end it. Violence against women will not stop if boys and men are not included in the conversation and become part of the solution. Men and boys in my riding of Oakville slipped on a pair of hot pink heels and walked through Oakville's downtown for Hope and High Heels. This raises funds for Halton Women's Place and the work they do, providing a safe haven for women and children in crisis and providing education to build a future without abuse. I am so thankful for their important service to our community. Mr. Speaker, gender-based violence can be ended in our lifetimes. Karina, Pam, and I are challenging all our male colleagues here in the House to join us after question period, to walk the talk, and do Hope and High Heels on the Hill. We have a pair of pink heels for everyone who wants to support ending violence against women. See you on the steps or the rotunda if it's raining. Thank you.
I remind members that we don't refer to each other by first names. Now, of course, the intent of that is to avoid conflicts, and I don't see any particular conflict arising from that, but one should generally avoid that, of course. The honourable member for Calgary-Shepherd.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to remember a dear friend and supporter, Del Reinhardt, who passed away September 2nd at the age of 79. I could tell you about his successful business ventures or his work as an accountant, but I won't, because his most important work was his family and his beloved wife. Like many Albertans, Del was actually born in Saskatchewan, at Kerrobert specifically. He married his wife Jeanette in 1964 and had 4 children, Greer, Michelle, Brett, and Kim. They had 13 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. Although he wintered in Arizona, he politicked in Alberta. Del loved talking politics. He would engage young conservatives brimming with ideas, teach them, mold them, and he door-knocked, persuaded, and talked politics always. My favorite memory of Del is getting a return phone call from somewhere on a payphone in Yuma to talk politics. In the words of Jeanette, he relished political discussion. Del now rests at St. Mary's Cemetery. Eternal rest grant unto your servant Del, O Lord, and let eternal light shine upon him. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bravo.
Honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, whether it is providing a loan for a first home or the funds to start a new business, credit unions are there for the millions of Canadians they serve. They are the backbone of many Canadian urban and rural communities, helping local economies grow and thrive. In my community, we are fortunate to have IC Savings, serving the needs of thousands of hardworking middle-class Canadians, playing a vital role in helping us ensure we all achieve financial well-being. Les coopératives de crédit et la Caisse populaire.
Credit unions and Caisse Populaire serve more than 10 million Canadians and employ more than 75,000. An equal number of active members volunteer and devote precious resources to many charitable causes.
14 years in a row.
I invite my colleagues to give a round of applause for the representatives of credit unions visiting Parliament Hill today. The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle. Mr. Speaker, for the first time on the Hill, Science Meets Parliament. Here today among us are 25 scientists and engineers who are leading lights in their field. Here is a wonderful opportunity to strengthen ties between the scientific and political communities. Today I had the great good fortune to closely observe 3 researchers at work and learn about the fascinating advances in their respective fields. Dr. Mering is studying the foundations of neurology and behavioral genetics. Dr. Bourgeois is studying quality assurance assessment programs, and Dr. Champagne is devising sustainable solutions to other issues. I have extraordinary admiration for these men and women in the sciences who contribute to improving people's lives and protecting them. Thank you for being here today.
The honourable member for Barrie, Springwater, Oro-Medonte.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I stand to remember those who paid the ultimate sacrifice, who offered their lives, so that we might know peace, we might know hope, so that we might be free. And I say might because at some points of World War I and World War II, there were no guarantees of victory for our Canadian and Allied forces. Stagnant lines in World War I, defeat at Dieppe in World War II were overcome with valor, courage, persistence, and above all else, self-sacrifice. This character forged a nation at Vimy Ridge, and it was solidified at Juno Beach. It was through this sacrifice by generations of young Canadians that we stand here in this place today, speaking freely, practicing democracy, pursuing equality, and preserving the destiny that our forefathers laid before us to be the true north, the strong, and the free. We will remember.
Honourable member for Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, today Diabetes Day starts on the Hill. Across Canada, millions of people live with diabetes, and it is critical for all Canadians to get screened to see their risk on this disease. Today, parliamentarians are learning about their own health risks thanks to the mobile cardiovascular screening unit on the Hill. And I want to thank Diabetes Canada for all the important work they do and welcome them to the Hill. It is clear that Canada needs a national strategy to address this growing challenge of diabetes. a strategy like Diabetes 360. I invite all members to join us tomorrow night for a reception to hear from the leading researchers on groundbreaking new treatments like beta cell replacement and islet transplants to help Canadians living with diabetes. Canada gave insulin to the world, and if we work together, we can defeat diabetes.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last night, MPs and staff gathered together at the Maclean's Actuality Parliamentarians of the Year Award. In a rare and refreshing spirit of bipartisanship, we celebrated MPs from northern Saskatchewan to Quebec City, Chicoutimi to Toronto, Nepean to Burnaby, who do us all proud. But I rise today to pay special tribute to our friend Paul Dewar, who deservedly won the Lifetime Achievement Award. After learning of the devastating news of Paul's cancer diagnosis, letters poured in from across the country. One person wrote, "This is a story of a life well lived because it was done in community." His longtime friend, Kiavash Najafi, recently said, "Paul is a man who cannot be stopped in pursuit of a better world," and we see this on brilliant display with Paul's Youth Action Now initiative. In his gracious and moving acceptance speech last night, Paul urged all of us to talk to one another with curiosity and compassion and to find that space in between. To Julia, Nathaniel, Jordan, enjoy these precious moments, and to Paul, thank you for sharing with us all and all Canadians a life that continues to be very, very well lived.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Markham Unionville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to wish all Canadians a happy Diwali. Diwali, also known as Deepavali, as a Hindu festival of lights, which is celebrated every autumn across the world. One of the largest holidays of the year in India, Diwali has a religious meaning for the members of the Hindu faith and other religions about truth over evil, light over darkness, and knowledge over ignorance. It is also a symbol of the best traditions of Indian culture and history. Diwali is a time to celebrate life and to look forward to the year ahead. In mandirs and gurdwaras across Canada, as you pray and celebrate Diwali with family and friends, I wish you happiness, prosperity, and joy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Happy Diwali.
The honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, today I had the honour of spending some time with two of leading ocean scientists, as well as a health research chair from my riding of Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge. We shared their research that looks into marine microbes, glacier dynamics, ocean productivity, and even the impacts of medical tourism. When would I ever have such a great opportunity? As a government, we pride ourselves on creating evidence-based policy, and this requires building a meaningful connection between the scientific and political communities. Today is our first annual Science Meets Parliament, a new initiative that brings scientists here to the Hill with the goal of creating dialogue and promoting mutual understanding. Up to 28 scientists have spent the day meeting with members of Parliament and senators. We have a great opportunity to learn from world-class scientists who in turn can better understand how the political process works. We have a chance to build lasting connections, become better informed, and learn about how research benefits our economy. So tonight at SJAM, come mingle with 28 of the best, brightest minds and see what you missed.
Questions orales, oral questions. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has displayed an outstanding capacity to be out of touch with Canadians on the issue with Stats Canada seizing personal financial data. But more and more experts are joining Canadians in their outrage at what this government is doing. A respected constitutional expert at the University of Waterloo said, What a moral failure. The government has no more business looking at personal banking transactions than it has putting cameras in bedrooms. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and stop this practice?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we take the privacy of Canadians very seriously, and so does Statistics Canada. In fact, Statistics Canada has been engaged with the Privacy Commissioner in regards to this pilot project, which has not yet been launched. We also understand the importance of quality and reliable data for Canadians. During 10 years, Conservatives ignored data and governed only through ideology. We witnessed the consequences, historically low economic growth while they were in power. We will continue to protect the privacy of Canadians and promote evidence-based policy.
Leader of the Opposition. Order.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister wants to make an evidence-based decision. Exhibit A. StatsCan has acknowledged that it is going to seize financial data linked to social insurance numbers. Exhibit B. This government has had 56 violations of security in its time in office. Exhibit C. This government had to pay out $17.5 million in a class action lawsuit because of a data breach. Will the Prime Minister make an evidence-based decision and cancel this practice?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, again, we take the privacy of Canadians very seriously. The Conservatives pretend to be concerned about privacy, but Canadians can see through this Conservative game. They continue to be opposed to Statistics Canada just doing their job. As recently as this weekend, the opposition House Leader indicated that the Conservatives still oppose the long-form census, which we brought back after the Conservatives eliminated it. While the Conservatives continue their fight against facts and science, we will protect the privacy of Canadians and ensure our decisions are made.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This isn't about the government's ability to make decisions. This is about the rights of Canadians to have their financial data protected. The Prime Minister would believe that the ends justify the means and that it's okay to violate fundamental rights when it comes to people's personal information. Conservatives reject that notion. The Prime Minister has the ability to do the right thing and cancel this practice. Will he do so?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, these are the same kinds of arguments that Conservatives put forward when they're in government as justifications for eliminating the long-form census, which apparently they still oppose. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House and in this government, we trust the work of the Privacy Commissioner to protect Canadians' privacy. That's why we are working with them. We are ensuring that Statistics Canada works with them on this pilot project that hasn't yet been brought in to ensure that we always protect the privacy of Canadians while ensuring reliable data.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, last Friday, the member for Saint-Léonard-Saint-Michel told a CBC journalist that he was busy working on duties assigned by the Prime Minister. Can the Prime Minister explain exactly what those duties are? Instead of having that member represent his constituents? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the member in question has publicly stated his intention to leave his position in January. He shared the files that will be working on between now and then. We all expect all members of Parliament to work in the best interest of their constituents.
No.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's very nice for the Liberal MP. He gets to collect his salary all the way to the end of January while he's earning a paycheck from a private firm. But that's all okay to the Prime Minister. In fact, the Prime Minister's asked him to stay away from Ottawa, to not vote, to not give speeches, to not represent his constituents. Why does the Prime Minister think it's fair for a member of Parliament to not show up for work, collect a paycheck from a private firm, and still get paid from the taxpayer?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member in question has publicly indicated his intention to leave public office this coming January and has shared the issues he'll be working on until then on behalf of his communities. Of course, Mr. Speaker, we expect every member in this House to work in the best interests of his constituents.
Allard.
Order.
Honourable.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Neigette-Témiscouata-les-Basques. Mr. Speaker, this week is dedicated to veterans who risk their lives to defend us, and the best way we can honour them is to take care of them when they come home. But when they call for services, our veterans have to wait hours and hours. Their calls are transferred a half a dozen times before they finally get to the right person. And the Liberals still find a way to not spend $372 million over the past 3 years, despite their promises. Will the Prime Minister commit to supporting our motion and to fully spending the budget dedicated to veterans? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, since 2016, we have invested $10 billion in programs and services for veterans. We have increased financial support to veterans and caregivers. We have supported a continuum of mental health services. In Budget 2018, we announced $48.2 million for service delivery and for the lifetime pension plan. We reopened the service offices for veterans that the previous Conservative government closed. The Honourable Member. Well, that's his answer, Mr. Speaker. In addition to the $372 million that hasn't been spent, the minister himself admitted that because of an accounting error, Ottawa accidentally withheld $165 million over 7 years. So in addition to that, the government will also be saving $500 million over 5 years by abolishing the lump sum payment. The Liberals are refusing to use those funds to fill the gaps in the pension system for our veterans. I'd like to know, is the government really working for veterans, or is it simply trying to save money at their expense? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to supporting veterans and their families. Unlike the previous government, we will ensure that funds are in place to support veterans when and where they need them. The Conservatives themselves cut services to veterans, including service officers, in order to create a false balanced budget. We have increased by $10 billion financial support for veterans, and we will always be there to support our veterans. And, of course, we will be supporting the NDP motion.
Bernie.
Mr. Speaker, in 2015, the Prime Minister criticized the Harper Conservatives for lapse spending at Veterans Affairs. He said, and I quote, "They left unspent more than $1 billion Parliament allocated for veterans support. Canadians know that this is wrong." He was right. This is wrong. The Liberals have now left $372 million unspent at Veterans Affairs, even as service levels deteriorate. My question is simple. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing today, end lapse spending at Veterans Affairs, and ensure money budgeted for veterans is actually spent on veterans?
Hear, hear. Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government is and continues to be committed to supporting and honouring Canada's veterans and their families. Unlike the previous government, we ensure that the necessary funding is made available to veterans when and where they need it. What the Conservatives did was cut services to veterans, including service offices, to create a fake balanced budget. In 3 years, we increased financial supports by over $10 billion, putting more money in veterans' pockets, increasing mental health supports, and are delivering on the promises we made to veterans and to their families.
The Honourable Member for Courtenay-Alberni.
Passing this motion today is a victory for veterans, but ending lapse spending is only the tip of the iceberg. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are now making veterans wait until 2020 to pay them back $165 million they're rightfully owed, and have introduced an unfair system for pensions that will actually reduce benefits for some veterans. This government has a sacred obligation to our veterans who have waited long enough. The Prime Minister voted in favour of this sacred obligation to our veterans. Why is his government not applying it?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, the well-being and financial security of Canada's veterans is our top priority. Our investment into veterans is $10 billion of new funding, including delivering on our promise for a pension for life option. Because more veterans are expected to take the $1,150 monthly tax-free payment for the rest of their lives rather than take a lump sum up front, the budgetary costs are obviously spread out over a longer time. We immediately increased financial support for veterans, increased mental health support, and are delivering on our promise to veterans.
The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca.
Mr. Speaker, for 2 weeks we've been asking the Prime Minister to put an end to his intrusion into the private lives of Canadians. Despite that, the Liberals are obstinately defending the indefensible. How can the Prime Minister condone an approach that allows the government to collect people's personal, confidential information, like credit card purchases, information from their bank accounts, and without their consent? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Let's talk about the real facts. Personal information will be removed. Canadians can rest assured that their banking information will remain protected and private. Statistics Canada cannot share that information with any person or organization. No government or the Prime Minister. The privacy of Canadians will be respected. The Honourable Member. Well, the Privacy Commissioner has launched an investigation, and that's troubling, Mr. Speaker. We've got a Prime Minister using the excuse of a pilot project to condone the fact that the government can gather confidential information on more than 500,000 Canadians. We've got a Liberal government violating the Canadians' privacy without their knowing it. We have the Prime Minister who's accepting to see the government take action that runs counter to the Privacy Act. So I'll repeat my question for the Prime Minister for the 10th time. Will he continue to accept this unacceptable situation? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government takes the privacy of Canadians very seriously. Let's be clear. This is a pilot project under development. Mr. Speaker, no data has been gathered. Statistics Canada is working with the Commissioner, the Privacy Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thornhill. Mr. Speaker, every Canadian chartered bank promises personal financial information will only be shared with client consent. But the Liberals are defending an exception in law allowing Statistics Canada to harvest deeply personal financial data without asking. Europeans this year have new privacy laws that prohibit this sort of privacy exposure without specific client consent. Mr. Speaker, why won't this Liberal government defend the privacy of Canadians and require Statistics Canada to ask permission before they pry into Canadians' most private financial dealings?
The Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, let's highlight some key facts. I think it's important that we talk about the facts. Statistics Canada is pursuing a pilot project. No data has been collected. Customers would be informed, and personal information will be removed. No breaches have occurred with Statistics Canada servers, Mr. Speaker. Those are the facts. Enough with the fake outrage.
A member for Thornhill.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if this is only a pilot project, I can only imagine what the full Monty will look like. Mr. Speaker, the new European privacy law gives citizens full control of personal data held by banks and financial services, the right to say no to requests to share that data with third-party organizations. Last week, Canada's Privacy Commissioner told our committee that, quote, individual privacy is not a right to simply trade off for innovation, efficiency, or commercial gain. Mr. Speaker, why won't this Liberal government allow Canadians to say no to Statistics Canada?
Minister of Innovation.
Again, Mr. Speaker, a lot of over-the-top rhetoric, a lot of fear-mongering. You know, what's really important to note that under this pilot project request, Statistics Canada used Section 13.1. You know how often Section 13.1 was used under Stephen Harper? 84 times, Mr. Speaker. Again, enough with the fake outrage, enough with the hypocrisy. Let's be straight with Canadians.
A member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, yes, let's be straight with Canadians, and enough of the hypocrisy from the other side of the chamber. Mr. Speaker, let me put it this way. Canadians expect informed consent when people are taking their financial data. I'd like to know from the Minister of Innovation Science, did he seek to consult with Canadians before he allowed Statistics Canada to send those letters to Canadian banks?
Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we've had this debate in 2015 when it came to the long-form census. They wanted to make it voluntary. We wanted to make sure it was mandatory. You know why? Because we believe in good quality, reliable data. The members opposite have a fundamental problem with Statistics Canada because they don't like the facts, they don't like good quality data, they don't like science, they don't like evidence-based decision making. They want to have this debate, bring it on.
Order. Order allowed. The honourable member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the members' comment regarding Bring It On, consider it brought, and we look forward to fighting on this issue. The track record for this government when it comes to consultation is just so suspect. They introduced small business tax changes with fully drafted legislation. They consulted on intellectual property. They got 18 comments. But here's some evidence and facts for the minister. 98% of the residents of Calgary Signal Hill say no, and 18,000 Canadians in 5 days have written in to say no to this tax.
Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite is giving the impression she can do a better job than the chief statistician. I find that very amusing. We believe in Statistics Canada, we believe in their methodology, but more importantly, we believe in the issues around privacy and data protection. Statistics Canada has a very rigorous process of removing personal information, and according to Section 17.1 of the Statistics Canada Act, no courts, no government, no prime minister, no government agency can compel Statistics Canada to reveal any personal information. They never have and they never will compromise on privacy and data protection.
Député de Jonquière.
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, yesterday Lowe's announced it would be closing 24 Rona stores across the country, including 9 in Quebec. In 2016, when Lowe's bought Rona, the NDP asked the Liberals to review the review process for foreign investments in order to ensure that the process is transparent and that potential job losses be taken into account. We also wanted to see a disclosure of the commitments made by the buyers. People are entitled to know. Do the Liberals plan to review the plan, or do plan to review the Canada Investment Act to prevent workers from always being sacrificed? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague opposite for her question. Our thoughts are with the workers in the communities affected by those store closures. We are always concerned with any job losses. We are prepared to provide essential support to affected workers, and we are monitoring the situation closely.
West.
Well, yesterday, the minister bragged about saving a few executive jobs as Lowe's USA deep six Canada's Rona. Meanwhile, Canadian frontline workers were not impressed by his I feel your pain offering because U.S. workers get to keep their jobs, whereas they're fired. Under the Foreign Investment Canada Act, the minister had the power to say no or to protect Rona workers and stop store closures as part of the deal, but he took a pass. Now that we're in this mess, people are losing their livelihoods, communities are losing their stores. What is he going to fix it?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite obviously has raised a very important issue. We understand how difficult this is for the workers, their families, and the communities impacted by these store closures. And of course, these store closures have occurred in Canada, but also in the United States as well. And we're always concerned to learn about any job losses, Mr. Speaker. And under the Investment Canada Act, as well as the member opposite has highlighted, we engaged the Quebec government as well. We were able to secure the head office in Boucherville and able to secure a footprint of jobs in Canada as well. And we'll continue to monitor the situation on a going forward basis.
I'd encourage the member for Windsor West to wait. Of course, he had a turn, and maybe he'll have again another one before too long. The honourable member for Carleton.
On income tax, this government has raised taxes on middle-class families on average by $800 per year, while taxing $4.5 billion less from the wealthiest 1%. On business tax, they raised taxes for plumbers, farmers, and pizza shop owners while protecting the finance minister's billion-dollar company and the prime minister's multi-million-dollar trust fund. And now on carbon taxes, they tax the consumer and give a total exemption to the polluter. Why is it that the little guy always gets the freight whenever this government is hungry for money?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker. It's no wonder that the party opposite always talks about our climate plan, since they don't have a climate plan. We are committed to working with small businesses to do what? Help them reduce their emissions, do their part to tackle climate change, and also support them to be more energy efficient so they can save money, which they reinvest in their business. We have a plan to tackle climate change, to grow our economy. The party opposite has neither.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, this government does not have a climate plan. It has a tax revenue raising plan. If it had anything to do with the environment, then they would be charging those large industrial corporations rather than putting 100% of the burden on small businesses, seniors, and soccer moms. But let's get this straight. Corporations that emit more than 50,000 tons of greenhouse gases per year are exempt, while small businesses and suburban commuters have to pay. Why?
Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, what? What is the party opposite's climate plan? They always talk about our plan. We have a plan that makes polluters pay. Let's be clear. They don't have a plan to put a price on pollution. It would be free.
Order. I can't hear the answer. I need to hear the answer. Members, I heard the question. Order. 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 We have to hear both sides, whether we like what they say or not. And we have to each wait our turn. The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's be clear. The party opposite would make it free to pollute for everyone. We have a plan to make sure that polluting isn't free, to also tackle climate change, to ensure that we're putting more money in the pockets of Canadians, and do what we need to do. Because you know what? We owe it to our kids to have a serious plan to tackle to protect the environment, tackle climate change, and also grow a clean economy and create good jobs.
Carleton.
Under the Liberal plan, pollution is free if you're a large industrial corporation. But they're saying to families, don't worry. If you can figure out how to pump 50,000 tons of greenhouse gases out of your chimney, we'll give you an exemption too. That's the Liberal plan. So once again, if this were really about the environment, why are they taxing consumers and not polluters?
The Minister of Environment.
Let's be clear, under our plan, pollution is not free. Under the Conservatives' plan, wait, there is no plan. There is no plan by the Conservatives. They have no plan to put a price on pollution. They have no plan to grow a clean economy. We could do both. We're going to continue doing what Canadians expect, which is tackle climate change, reduce our emissions, grow a clean economy, and create good jobs.
The Honourable Member for Carleton. Order.
So I keep asking that if this tax really will save us all from climate change, why is it the large industrial corporations get a complete exemption? And the only answer we've heard so far is that if the tax applied to those corporations, they might move out of the country and take their jobs with them, which raises the question. If the tax drives jobs out of the country and global emissions up, then why are they applying it to thousands of small businesses right across Canada?
Minister of Environment.
Let me be clear. We have a plan to tackle climate change. We also have a plan to make pollution, putting a price on pollution. Polluters need to pay, but unfortunately on the other side, they want to make polluting free. They have no climate plan. They have no plan for the economy. They have no plan to create jobs. We're going to do both because that's what Canadians expect.
Order. Member for Brabantia will come to order, and lots of others too, I hope. The member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Women waited 42 years for Liberals to legislate pay equity, but we heard this morning that pay equity provisions in the government's 800-page bill might be unconstitutional. They weaken protection for part-time and temporary workers. Said the Equal Pay Coalition, quote, "It means women will have to go to court all over again." Liberals can't call this pay equity if it doesn't protect precarious workers. Will this self-proclaimed feminist Prime Minister fix the bill?
Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, we're incredibly proud to be the first government to take pay equity seriously and introduce proactive pay equity legislation for all federally regulated workers and employers. This is historic legislation, Mr. Speaker. It's going to right the wrong of decades, if not a century of work, and so we're really looking forward to working with employers and stakeholders, ensuring that the regulations are set well so that we can move forward with this legislation. Thank you.
Honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby.
No answer, so we'll try again. C-86 is a massive omnibus bill in direct contradiction to the Liberal promise not to do this anymore. The Pay Equity Coalition told Finance Committee that pay equity provisions are unconstitutional in the bill and will force women back to court to fight for rights. That's appalling. And the Liberal bill provides even less protection for part-time and temporary workers. That's worrisome. Now, C-86 is badly botched on pay equity. Rather than ramming it through the House, will the government pull back and work with civil society, pay equity advocates, and the NDP to fix the bill?
Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, our government knows that pay equity isn't just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do for our economy. If we were able to close the gender wage gap, pay equity is part of that, we could see the addition of $150 billion to our economy by 2026. We're committed to ensuring the effective implementation and enforcement of proactive pay equity in federally regulated workplaces. Employees' right to equal pay of equal value will be protected, and any proposed exemptions would be developed in consultation with stakeholders. Thank you.
The member for Mississauga, East Cooksville.
Mr. Speaker, there's nothing quite like the Olympics. There's no denying that it brings a country together, unifying it around the power of sport. I remember the 1996 Olympic Games like they were yesterday. Now, we've seen that Calgary and the province of Alberta are putting together a bid to host the Winter Olympics in 2026. I know that our government has been very involved in the negotiating process of these games. Can the Minister of Science and Sport please provide this House with an update on this bid?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank you to the member from Mississauga East Cooksville and an Olympian for his question. Our government worked with the City of Calgary and the province of Alberta to reach an agreement for a Calgary 2026 Winter Games bid. Calgarians will now vote in a plebiscite, and if they decide to support the Games, they will have a strong partner in our government. The Olympics are good for the economy, our athletes, and for all of us who would witness history in our own backyard.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I asked a question about a needle exchange program in prisons. And the minister answered that the program had to do with EpiPens and insulin syringes. The reality is that the minister has no intention to ban the use of narcotics in prisons and is choosing to make criminals comfortable rather than keeping correctional officers safe. Jeff Wilkins, chair of the Union for the Atlantic region, says that needle use in cells will significantly increase risks to their union members. Does the minister deny what Mr. Wilkins has said?
For public safety.
Mr. Speaker, these types of programs are in use in correctional facilities in various locations around the world. They are based on scientific research and the best advice of healthcare professionals. The total point here, Mr. Speaker, is to prevent the spread of disease and to keep our institutions safer, and we are determined to do that in a safe and secure way. I would point out that those facilities already include EpiPens for allergic reactions. They already include syringes for insulin. Mr. Speaker, that demonstrates the Correctional Service can manage this situation.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, maybe Mr. Wilkins' words weren't weighty enough, but there's also Jason Godin, the national president of correctional officers, who says that this needs to stop immediately. This has nothing to do with EpiPens or insulin syringes for diabetics. These are needles that are going to be given to prisoners so that they can shoot up with illegal drugs. It doesn't make any sense. Correctional agents say that they weren't consulted about this, and they're calling on this program to be ended immediately. Will the minister listen?
Mr. Speaker, obviously the views and the opinions of the correctional service officers who perform such excellent work in our facilities under very difficult considerations. Obviously, their views are important to us. We also take into account the best scientific evidence and the experience from around the world, which demonstrates that this program can be done effectively and safely.
Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Of the total number of people who illegally entered Canada via the U.S.-Canada land border and subsequently claimed asylum in Canada between January 2017 and today, how many are employed in Canada? How many are drawing social assistance payments? How many are housed in homeless shelters, hotels, or other government-sponsored subsidized housing? And what is the total cost for other government programs that they have accessed, for example, education, healthcare, or daycare?
Good question. The Honourable Minister of Border Security.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to advise this House that we've actually made very substantial progress in reducing the number of people that are entering the country irregularly over the last few months. And in addition, I have very good news to share with this House. Of the 464 individuals that were temporarily housed in the City of Toronto at the beginning of June, only 35 of those people remain in temporary shelter, and the rest, through the excellent work of the City of Toronto and HoC, have found more permanent housing. The system's working, Mr. Speaker.
Calgary Nose Hill.
Well, actually, Canadians have no way of knowing if the system is working because the government isn't tracking the information I've just asked for. They're not tracking how many are employed or the total cost of social assistance programs. They're not tracking the cost of subsidized housing. They're not tracking the impact on Canadians who are in need. Why doesn't this government understand that the only way to gain acceptance for immigration in Canada is to fix the broken system rather than spending tax dollars on propaganda programs?
Honourable Minister of Border Security.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, I would simply point out to the member that, first of all, the issue of asylum seekers is a totally separate system. Determined by an independent tribunal from the larger immigration system. And I don't think I need to explain to the member opposite the enormous contributions that immigrants have made to this country. And our country has been built on the hard labor of immigrants and their contribution. And for those who first come, who may require some support and assistance, we are a welcoming country.
Honourable Deputy.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe. Order. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' bill to reduce poverty includes no new program and no new investment. Do people living in poverty really need to wait another 3 years for that? In 2016, they voted against my bill, saying that they could do better. But now, clearly, their bill lacks ambition. Organizations have expressed disappointment that the government is recycling old measures. The minister knows that this is just smoke and mirrors. So why are the Liberals again settling for empty rhetoric over real action? The Honourable Minister of Social Development. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government was elected on a promise to grow the middle class because that makes the economy grow, and it helps Canadians join the middle class. We started doing this in 2016 with the Canada Child Benefit, a historic measure that has lifted nearly 500,000 people out of poverty. We've also implemented measures which by the spring of 2019 will have helped over 600,000 Canadians be lifted out of poverty. We know that this is important, Mr. Speaker, and we're counting on the support of the NDP to get this bill through.
What's going on?
Mr. Speaker, Canada Post workers on disability and mothers depending on their top-up are being wrongfully targeted. It's been a week since I first raised this in the House, and it's been longer since they've been cut off. Whatever the government says, this is not a normal part of the collective bargaining process. So the minister responsible for Canada Post can call off the dogs at any time. So what is she waiting for? Is she waiting for someone to miss a mortgage payment or skip their medication? What exactly is it going to take for her to call Canada Post and tell them to stop bargaining on the back of sick and vulnerable workers?
Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Mr. Speaker, we absolutely understand the impact that work disruption is having on employees and their families, and that's why our government has been encouraging both parties to reach a fair deal for everyone. Unfortunately, when a strike occurs, the expiry of collective agreement affects some of the supplemental benefits available to employees. It doesn't, for example, affect prescription or long-term disability, Mr. Speaker. Rest assured, employees also continue to receive their EI benefits, parental and maternity benefits, and Canada Post is also accepting requests on compassionate grounds for exceptions, and I encouraged the union last night to tell their members of this possibility. Thank you.
Député de Bellechasse.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, les Aides-Chemin-Lévis. It appears that in addition to receiving a generous pension, Adrienne Clarkson bills of over $200,000 a year to an expense account 10 years after leaving office as Governor General. That's a lot of money, and there's not a lot of information about it, Mr. Speaker. Even the royal family in the UK has their spending carefully scrutinized. So, do the Liberals not realize that this is tarnishing our institutions? And will they finally be accountable to Canadians and tell them how their money is being spent? The Honourable Minister of Heritage. Governor Generals provide a great service to Canada. It's clear that Canadians expect transparency and accountability in the way that public funding is spent. This applies to all of our organizations, institutions, including the Governor General. We have looked at this program so that we will take the appropriate action that will meet the expectations of Canadians.
Mr. Speaker, he's correct. Canadians do expect this government to be transparent, which then begs the question yet again. Adrienne Clarkson, former Governor General, has spent $200,000 per year since 2005 when she left office. Now, that's up and above her pension taking, the amount that she takes home for her pension. Now, Governor General David Johnston, he's come forward and preemptively offered that his accounts can go on public record. My question is simple. Will the Liberals release a detailed account with regards to the expenses incurred by Adrienne Clarkson?
Honourable Minister of Heritage.
Mr. Speaker, with their commitment to public life, Governor Generals provide a great service to Canada. Canadians expect accountability and transparency when public money is spent, and this applies to all organizations, all institutions, including the Governor General. So we'll look very closely at how the support we provide them with is structured to ensure that we're following best practices and meeting Canadians' expectations.
Honourable Member for Beauport, de Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix. The G7 was held in my riding. Twice, I wrote to the Office of the Minister of Foreign Affairs with questions about compensation programs for the businesses who suffered significant financial losses during the summit. And guess what? No answer. Today we've learned that the government spent $23 million on 631 vehicles that are no longer being used. And in the meantime, our local businesses are still waiting for compensation. When will the government keep its promise to compensate these businesses? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know that the residents of Charlevoix were proud to welcome people from all around the world and to show the beauty of their region. In the months before the summit, we worked closely with all local partners, and I can assure my colleague that the compensation policy for local businesses are the same as those that were in place under the Harper Conservatives in 2010.
Member for Long Range Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the tourism industry is an important economic driver for all our communities, from coast to coast to coast, and especially in my beautiful rural riding of the Long Range Mountains. In Newfoundland and Labrador alone, tourism provides close to 30,000 good jobs for middle-class Canadians. However, we know that better is always possible. Can the Minister of Tourism, Official Languages and La Francophonie update the House on the government's plan to grow our tourism sector, create more jobs, and grow our economy?
Very good. The Honourable Minister.
I want to thank Mr. Speaker, my colleague from Long Range Mountain, for her excellent question. Indeed, tourism is an important driver in Canada. It provides for 1 in 10 jobs in the country. 1.8 million Canadians work in the tourism sector, and it is an industry of the future. It is growing at one of the fastest pace in the world, 4%. And therefore, the Prime Minister has asked me to develop a new federal strategy for tourism. And by making sure that we support good jobs, work in this Canada-China Year of Tourism to bring more Chinese tourists to Canada, we can grow the numbers, grow revenues.
Order. The Honourable Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, as one of the Liberal members just said, better is always possible. Well, better should be possible when it comes to the Admiral Mark Norman affair. In one of the first Liberal cabinet meetings, Mr. Speaker, they tried to stop the Davie shipbuilding contract. We know that several Liberal ministers and members of the Liberal caucus have real or perceived conflicts of interest. We also know the Privy Council investigation showed that 73 people were aware of cabinet secrets from that meeting. Will the minister commit to release the names of these 73 people?
Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, there is a prosecution going on in Canadian law courts. Both sides in that important legal proceeding are competently represented by the Public Prosecution Service of Canada and by eminent defense counsel. They are pursuing the documents that they need. A court of law will determine the status of those documents and whatever rules of privilege or confidence apply to them, Mr. Speaker. The fact of the matter is these matters are determined in court and not in Parliament.
Member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Mr. Speaker, payment delays in construction lead to job losses, slowed projects, and small business bankruptcies. Trade contractors perform 80% of all construction work in Canada, and they're disproportionately affected by these payment delays. They're unfair, and the Liberals promise to fix the problem. Now that this government has consulted and published a report on this matter, will they commit to tabling prompt payment legislation so that it has time to become law before the next election?
Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Mr. Speaker, we absolutely agree that contractors deserve to be paid promptly, and we are absolutely committed to bringing forth legislation before the election to remedy this. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, last summer, our government made an important announcement for rural communities in northern Manitoba with investments to strengthen the safety of the Gillam and Bloodvein River airports. Regional airports play a vital role for small communities. They are not only important hubs for residents and businesses, but provide essential air services, including community resupply, search and rescue, forest fire response, and air ambulance. During my time in Manitoba's air ambulance program, our ability to provide life-saving medical procedures and evacuations depended greatly on the airport's accessibility and safety. Can the Minister please update Manitobans and all Canadians on this important initiative?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
I'd like to thank the member from Charleswood, St. James, and Assiniboia, Headingley for his excellent question and his service to his country. We know that local airports in Manitoba are extremely important to the local economies, for travel, for tourism, for resupply, for medevac. That is why we are increasing the safety at two airports in Manitoba, at Gillam and Bloodvein River, by providing them with snow removal equipment. But on top of that, we have previously announced funding for airport improvements at God's River, Red Sucker Lake, Flin Flon, Brandon, Tadouli Lake, The Pas, and Thompson.
Honourable Member for Abbotsford.
Kimberly Moran and her newly adopted son have been stranded in Ghana, Africa, for over 3 months as they seek citizenship papers to allow them to return to Canada. After months of silence, the minister finally responded by saying that he couldn't even give a time frame for completion of this process. How callous, Mr. Speaker. It appears this Liberal government doesn't care about the Moran family or their adopted boy. When will this government finally act to bring this family home?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for Immigration.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can't speak about the specifics of this case due to privacy laws, but I can assure my honourable colleague that, like all matters that deal with inter-country adoptions, we take all cases seriously. Inter-country adoptions, in all cases, our first priority is the health and well-being of the children involved. International adoptions, Mr. Speaker, are governed by strict rules, and we must comply with the rules of both the sending and the receiving country. Thank you very much.
Député de Pierre Boucher.
Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals let Lowe's buy Rona with no conditions. They settled for just 6 non-binding commitments from the company. The result is that Lowe's has already broken 2 of those commitments. Furthermore, it looks like there were secret commitments made between the company and the government. But there's no way to know what they are. They're as top secret as the mission of the member for Saint-Léonard-Saint-Michel. Will the government show some transparency and tell us what are these famous commitments that Lowe's is supposed to respect? Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, our thoughts are with the workers, families, and communities affected by these store closures. This transaction was examined in order to see if it would provide a net economic benefit to Canada. Consultations were also held with the province of Quebec, and Lowe's made commitments that need to be respected. We are monitoring the situation closely. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Well, the question was, what are those commitments? Let's talk a little bit about the minister's thought process here. I asked his department if I could see any document, analysis, or study concerning the sale of Rona that the minister may have received before authorizing the transaction. Do you know what I was told? We regret to inform you that we have not found any documents that meet your request. Not even a post-it note. Will the minister reveal the impact assessments used, or is he confirming that he authorized the sale without doing an analysis at all? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, I do not agree with my colleague. We have been very clear. Our government's priority is to ensure that transactions are good for everyone.
In Canada Act as well, that this transaction really advances the economic benefits, where the head office would be located in Boucherville as well. We engage the Quebec government as well, and will continue to monitor the situation on a going forward basis.
Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
Mr. Speaker, after determining that China was dumping and subsidizing structural steel, the Canadian International Trade Tribunal applied countervailing duties. But LNG Canada has sought an exception so that it can ship in steel modules from China rather than building them here. We should seize this opportunity to develop Canada's steel industry. Can this government commit to enforcing existing tariffs against unfairly traded Chinese steel?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, this is an important question. There is a process whereby if there's an investment that's being made and if there's an opportunity for something to be purchased that cannot be produced in Canada, that we consider remission orders. That is exactly what happened in the case of LNG Canada. By the same token, we do want to have a situation where we encourage steelmakers to produce the goods that we need here in Canada. That will be our continuing goal while considering exceptions where exceptions are warranted.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members, and they'll want to hear this, the presence in the gallery of members of the Canadian Forces and the RCMP who have been chosen to participate in the 2018 Remembrance Day Century Program. Sergeant Isabelle Leclerc, leading Seaman Harver Gill, Corporal Danny Lassar, Master Corporal Simon Hughes, Lieutenant Derek Carter, Constable Steve Monkley, Sergeant Jeremy Leblanc. Comme il est 3 heures.
As it is 3:10 p.m., according to order adopted earlier, the House will now proceed to the recorded division on Mr. John's motion. Calling the members.
La question est...
The question is as follows.
I'll move that in the opinion of the House, the government should automatically carry forward in all annual lapsed spending. Shall I dispense? No. Annual lapsed spending at the Department of Veterans Affairs for the next fiscal year for the sole purpose of improving services for Canadian veterans until the department meets or exceeds its 24 self-identified service standards. All those in favour of the motion will please rise.
Mr. Carroll. Mr. Carroll. Mr. Julian. Mr. Julian. Madame Brosso. Madame Brosso. Mr. Cullen. Mr. Cullen. Mr. Angus. Mr. Angus. Mr. Massey, Windsor West. Mr. Massey, Windsor West. Ms. Ashton. Ms. Ashton. Ms. Matheson. Ms. Matheson. Mr. Christofferson. Mr. Christofferson. Mr. Garrison. Mr. Garrison. Madame Boutin-Sweet. Madame Boutin-Sweet. Ms. Blaney, North Island Powell River. Ms. Blaney, North Island Powell River. Mr. Rankin. Mr. Rankin. Monsieur Dubé. Monsieur Dubé. Mr. Davies. Mr. Davies. Monsieur Bouleris. Monsieur Bouleris. Madame Laverdière. Madame Laverdière. Mr. Donnelly. Mr. Donnelly. Monsieur Aubin. Monsieur Aubin. Monsieur Nantel. Monsieur Nantel. Ms. Malcolm.